Joseph Reeves stopped carving only when the wind outside turned into a scream. By the morning the blizzard hit, he was already warm, inside a haystack. The storm had swallowed the valley without warning, but inside the hollowed-out hay, the air was still. 3 days earlier, he had nothing but a haystack and a rumor of homelessness. The town called him a mouse in the hay.
A mouse? He's lower than a mouse. At least a mouse doesn't pretend that pile of rot is a house.
But Joseph had already stopped listening to the laughter. He walked back to the one thing he owned and started digging.
If I can just carve out enough space, the hay might trap the heat.
He worked until his fingers bled. Then he wedged himself inside and pulled the last bale across the entrance. A dog was his only companion, and as the first gusts hit, it pressed against him in the dark.
The wind can't get in. Not a single draft.
Whether it would hold the night. The haystack had already become his only answer. Inside the hollow, the air was strangely still. The kind of stillness that belonged underground.
No wind. Not a single draft. It's warmer than any barn I've slept in.
Outside, the town suffocated under a fury of white. Snow packed against every door, like a second night. David Harrow stood at his frozen window, breath fogging the glass. His cabin had no such stillness.
This cold as a blade. Even the walls are sweating ice.
His mind went to his barn cats, curled in hay, alive in winters past. A lesson he'd never credited.
The old-timers said hay breathes its own warmth if you pack it tight enough.
He pressed his hand against the hay wall. It wasn't just still, it was faintly warm to the touch.
Maybe a mouse in the hay isn't so stupid after all.
Outside, the blizzard only grew louder, burying the valley in its own rage. As the hours crept by, Joseph explored the hollow, his hands tracing the packed walls. His fingers found something rough and unexpected.
Wheat heads. Still heavy with grain. Someone missed them at harvest.
He pulled a stalk free and worked the kernels loose with his thumb. A handful of grain, dry, edible, life. Beyond the haystack, the storm turned the valley road into a death trap. A tree limb snapped and crushed a passing wagon.
We can't stay. Leo won't last the hour in this cold.
Joseph paused, his ear turned to the wind. A far-off sound, like a tree tearing loose.
Nothing I can do about it. Keep picking. Stay warm.
Mara dragged Leo from the shattered wagon into the white fury. The road was gone, the world erased.
Mama, I am so cold. I can't feel my legs.
The blizzard howled on, swallowing their footsteps and the sound of the crash, as if nothing had happened at all. David Harrow saw two shapes stumble from the wreckage, a woman and a child, half buried in snow.
They won't last the hour. Not in this cold. Not without help.
His mind jumped to the one warm place he knew. The haystack. The mouse's ridiculous den.
Maybe that fool's shelter is the only thing standing between them and a grave.
He wrenched the door open and shouted into the storm. This way. There's shelter. Follow my voice. Mara's head lifted. Through the white out, a voice cut like a blade. She grabbed Leo's hand.
Who is that, Mama? Is he going to help us?
She had no answer, but she moved, dragging the boy toward the sound into the blinding drift. 3 figures bent against the gale, the haystack a faint shape ahead. Every step was a gamble. The blizzard tightened its grip, and for a long moment, the haystack disappeared behind a wall of white. They stumbled forward until David's outstretched hand touched something solid. The haystack.
We're here. There has to be someone inside.
Inside the hollow, Joseph froze. The thud against the hay was close, too close.
Who would be out in this? And why here?
His dog growled low, hackles rising. Someone was desperate enough to brave the storm. He crawled to the sealed gap and peered through a crack in the hay. Through the swirling snow, he saw a face he knew too well. David Harrow, the man who had called him a mouse.
Reeves, I know you are in there. Open up. There's a woman and child.
A woman and child. He's not here for himself.
Joseph's hand hovered over the hay bale that sealed the entrance. He had food. He had warmth. Opening it could cost him everything.
Please, I am begging you. My son is turning blue. Don't let him die out here.
If I don't open it, that boy dies, and I'll be the reason.
He tore the bale away. Snow blasted in with a fury, but behind it stood 3 gray, frozen figures. Mara half fell through the gap, shoving Leo ahead. Joseph grabbed the boy and pulled them clear of the entrance. David squeezed through last and jammed the hay back into place. The hollow became a cramped, breathless den.
It's warm. It smells like a barn, Mama.
David kept his back pressed to the wall, staring at the floor. Not a word came from the man who had laughed.
3 more lungs breathing my air. The grain won't last if I share it.
The blizzard outside only intensified its roar, unmoved by the fragile peace inside. They were alive, huddled like cattle. But the haystack had never felt so small or so temporary. Joseph reached into his coat and pulled out the handful of wheat he had picked from the walls.
It's not much, but it's food. We'll need to ration it.
Food. Thank you. Thank you for not letting us die out there.
David stayed silent, staring at the grain as if it were an accusation he couldn't answer. Leo's trembling fingers found the dog's coarse fur, and for the first time, a weak smile crossed his face. A sudden gust shook the haystack. The walls groaned like the hull of a ship in heavy seas.
It's not the hay that keeps us warm. It's the stillness. No wind can carry our heat away.
For once, David didn't scoff. He lifted his head and listened, his contempt replaced by something harder to name. Joseph split the grain into 5 tiny piles. Even the dog got a few kernels. They ate in silence, the tiny crunch of grain, their only conversation. The blizzard outside screamed on, without warning. A blade of freezing air sliced through a seam near Joseph's head. The wind had found a weak point.
The wall is giving. Get that bale and brace it.
David lunged without hesitation, pressing his back against the bucking hay. For the first time, they were not enemies.
Tell me what to do.
The man who called me a mouse is trusting me to save him.
They worked like men possessed, tearing chunks of hay and forcing them into the gap. Mara held Leo close, praying. The hissing stopped. The hay settled. Breathless, they listened, only the muted roar of the blizzard beyond the wall.
Thank you. I was wrong about you.
Save it. We're not out of this yet.
They slumped against opposite walls, breathing hard. The storm still raged, but the silence between them had changed forever. Hours bled together in the dark. Outside, the howl weakened just a little. But the grain sack was nearly flat. Joseph felt the bottom of his coat pocket. 4 kernels, maybe 5.
Mama, I am still hungry. My stomach hurts.
Without a word, Joseph poured his last kernels into the boy's open palm.
No. You need your strength too. You've already given too much.
I've gone hungry before. He hasn't.
David watched, his jaw tight. He had seen charity from pulpits and collection plates, but never like this. Through the hay, the wind's scream faded to a whisper. The storm was loosening its grip. They drew together without speaking, the dog pressing between them, a single living knot against the cold. The worst was behind them, but the world outside remained a frozen threshold they couldn't yet cross.
I called you a mouse, but you are the only one who kept us alive. I took what I was wrong, and I am sorry.
Joseph looked at the man who had mocked him and saw only exhaustion and truth.
It's behind us. We're alive because we trusted each other.
The words hung in the stillness, heavier than any storm outside. Leo's head drooped onto his mother's shoulder. His breathing grew slow and even. Mara wiped her eyes and gave Joseph a watery smile. David looked away, but not in shame, in acceptance.
For the first time in years, I am not alone. Not in here. Not anywhere. Not anywhere.
The storm's rage became a distant murmur, like a memory already fading. They listened to the dying wind and to the silence that grew in its place. And in that buried hollow, A man who had been nothing found he was part of something larger than himself. The night stretched on in silence, but Joseph did not sleep. He sat watching the rise and fall of their chests.
A week ago, I was nothing but a joke. Now these people are breathing because I carved a hole in hay.
He looked at David, the man who had mocked him, now curled like a child in the warmth Joseph provided.
The haystack didn't just save my life. It gave me a reason to live.
His dog, curled against his leg, woofed softly in its sleep, as if agreeing. Outside, the clouds parted. A cold moon poured through the snow, threading silver into the haystack walls. The hollow seemed to cradle them, a cave of gold in a world turned to white bone.
All my life, I've been wandering. But tonight, I am exactly where I am supposed to be.
He leaned back into the hay, feeling its quiet warmth seep into his bones. For the first time in years, Joseph Reeves closed his eyes, not to escape the world, but to welcome the next day. When Joseph opened his eyes again, the haystack was no longer dark. Thin seams of gold cut through the walls like veins of light. The blizzard had stopped. Not a whisper of wind, only the dense silence of a world buried alive.
Morning, and I am still breathing.
One by one, the others stirred. Leo sat up first, his small face still pale, but his eyes curious.
Everyone up. We need to dig ourselves out before the snow hardens to rock.
They tore at the sealed entrance, scooping packed snow with bare hands. Joseph drove his shoulders into the drift until it collapsed outward. Sunlight exploded through the gap. Pure, blinding white. They had forgotten the color. One by one, they crawled out. The haystack stood behind them, a golden mountain against the snow.
We did it. We're outside.
The world was remade. No road, no wagon, no town. Just an ocean of ice, and at their backs, the haystack that had refused to let them die. David stopped and stared at his barn. A cat emerged from a hay bale, then another, alive and well.
They survive the same way, buried in hay. It's not just luck, it's a law of the cold.
A lifetime of farming, and he had never understood the simplest truth. Hay doesn't just feed, it shelters.
You were smarter than all of us, Reeves. Even the animals knew before I did.
I just watched what worked. The mice, the cats, they figured it out long ago.
Joseph's quiet reply was not arrogance, but a mirror, reflecting a truth the whole valley had ignored. They walked on, the haystack shrinking behind them, its lesson now carried in open eyes. Mara squeezed Leo's hand, murmuring about warm beds. David's pace quickened. The town was miles away, but the journey no longer felt like a funeral march. Behind them, the haystack stood, a golden monument on the white horizon, waiting for whoever might need it next. The group had not walked half a mile before Mara stopped and looked north. A dark lip was forming above the peaks.
Is that another storm?
Joseph scanned the horizon. The cloud was low and fast, carrying the blue-black bruise of a second front.
We won't make town. That storm will be on us in 20 minutes. Back to the haystack. Now.
David didn't argue. He scooped up Leo, and they all ran. The snow fought every step. The haystack came into view just as the first icy pellets began to sting their faces.
Get inside. I'll seal it.
They dove into the hollow. Joseph shoved the hay bale back into place, packing the edges with desperate speed. The wind struck with a shriek, shaking the entire stack, but the seal held.
No grain left. No time. Just this den, and whatever heat our bodies can share.
The second blizzard hit harder than the first, a wall of white noise that tried to peel the haystack apart. Inside, the walls shuddered. But the repair and the extra bodies packed the space so tight that no draft could find them.
This stack survived one storm. It'll survive another.
He scraped the last of the grain from his pocket, maybe 12 kernels between them all.
2 each. That's all we have.
Are we going to die, Mr.?
Not here, Leo. Not in this haystack, I promise.
The boy nodded and pressed closer to his mother. David looked at Joseph, and saw a man keeping his word before it was even spoken. Outside, the blizzard howled with a new fury, but it could not touch the stillness they had built together. They huddled in the amber glow of the lantern, hunger gnawing but hope burning brighter than the cold that raged beyond the walls. The storm's roar softened to a distant growl. In the quiet, Joseph pressed his palm against the inner wall of hay.
It's not just still, it's warm. Warmer than it should be.
He dug his fingers deeper and felt a steady, moist heat, the unmistakable pulse of fermentation.
The hay is composting. It's generating its own heat, like a slow furnace.
You mean, this whole time, the hay didn't just trap our warmth, it made its own.
Exactly. The moisture from our breath, the tight packing. It started a slow cook. We've been sitting on a blanket of living heat.
Mara held her hands toward the wall, feeling the invisible warmth. Even the dog nosed deeper into the hay. Dust motes danced in the lantern light, as if the hay itself was breathing.
He didn't just survive. He understood something the whole valley ignored.
Outside, the blizzard scattered into harmless gusts. Inside, the haystack hummed with a quiet, ancient life. When the second storm finally died, they tore open the entrance without ceremony. The sky was a clean, hard blue. Joseph emerged first, his dog beside him, and scanned the white horizon. There, a thin curl of smoke far to the south.
That's the town. We're closer than I thought.
David knelt and lifted Leo onto his back without a word. The boy clung weakly, but his eyes were open. They started the long walk, a ragged line against the vast snow. No one spoke, but their steps fell into rhythm.
We're walking out of a haystack and into a town that called me a fool. Let them look.
The haystack shrank behind them until it was just a golden speck on the white earth.
I owe that man my life, and my pride won't let me forget it.
Mara walked close to Joseph, their shoulders almost touching. Grief and gratitude had forged a bond that needed no words. The road to town was long, and what waited there was still unknown. But they were no longer walking alone. When they reached the town's edge, a woman at the well dropped her bucket and stared. People froze. Faces that had mocked now registered only shock.
This man, the one you called a mouse, kept us alive through 2 blizzards in a haystack.
He told them how hay trapped their heat, how it fermented and warmed them like a stove. The scorn dissolved. A hushed awe settled over the crowd. Joseph just stood there, a tired smile on his face, his dog pressing against his leg. He was the same man who had walked out of town a failure, only to return as the one who had beaten the storm. Mara held Leo, her tear-streaked face a silent testimony. And then the clapping started, hesitant at first, then swelling into a wave of gratitude.
I didn't do it for this, but I won't pretend it means nothing.
As the crowd scattered, David caught Joseph's sleeve and pulled him aside, his face grave.
Reeves, I've got a cabin with a warm stove and empty rooms. Work my farm, and you'll never go hungry again.
Joseph blinked. After years of derision, the words landed like something from a dream.
A roof, a steady wage, everything I thought I'd lost forever.
You earned it. The whole valley knows now what you really are, what you really are.
His gaze drifted past the rooftops, toward the horizon where the haystack still stood, golden in the low sun.
That pile of hay gave me more than a farm ever could. It gave me myself.
He didn't answer. The silence stretched like a rope pulled taut between them.
Think on it. The door's open whenever you are ready.
He nodded, but his heart was already walking back to the haystack. David, I can't accept. Not because I am not grateful, because I am. But I need to do this my way.
He saw the confusion on David's face and softened his voice.
That haystack taught me I can survive anything. I want to build my own life, not borrow someone else's.
David looked away, then back, and a small, sad smile crept onto his weathered face.
Thank you for everything. You gave me a chance when I needed one.
He shook David's hand firmly, then patted his dog's head.
I am not homeless. I am home, and it's time to go back.
Without another word, He turned and trudged into the endless white, his dog at his side. The haystack gleamed in the distance, its entrance a dark mouth waiting to welcome him. Joseph Reeves had been called a mouse, but mice survive winters that kill proud men. The sun hung low, painting the snow gold as Joseph reached his haystack. He circled the mound, noting the scars of wind and ice, a few gaps, a sagging wall, minor wounds.
Nothing I can't fix. Just need to repack a few bales, tighten the seams.
He tugged at a loose tuft, testing the strength of the weave. The dog sniffed at the entrance, tail wagging, as if approving.
Home. Not a den for a mouse. A home for a man who knows how to survive.
He knelt and pulled a bale across the largest gap, starting the work while the light held. The hay crunched under his hands, a familiar sound. It felt like a promise. He stopped, leaned against the golden wall, and smiled. The world had called him a mouse, but the haystack, it knew him as something else entirely. Days grew warmer, and Joseph worked without hurry. He fitted a salvage door into the entrance, giving the hollow a proper threshold. Snow retreated, uncovering the valley floor. Where the blizzard had raged, creeks now chuckled over black stones. Wildflowers speckled the base of the haystack, yellow and white against the fading gold of the hay. Joseph sat with his dog on the slope above, looking out over a valley that had tried to kill him and failed.
I used to think survival was about fighting, but it's not. It's about finding the stillness inside the storm.
The haystack shimmered in the midday sun, a quiet monument not to triumph, but to simple, stubborn presence. He had come with nothing but his hands. Now he had a door, a dog, and a name no one would ever laugh at again. The man who had hollowed out a home had also filled something inside himself, and somewhere in the town, David told the story to anyone who would listen, how a mouse had taught them all to weather the winter. The haystack stood, season after season, a golden sentinel that remembered the blizzard and the man who refused to be broken.